Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning. My name is Jake Anderson, Acting Assistant Director at the Energy Coalition and part of the implementation team supporting I-REN's public sector programs. I'll be your moderator for today's session, Powering Resilient Communities, I-REN's new public sector services. We're very excited to have you join us as we introduce our new program offerings and also learn about some projects that are already advancing energy resilience in the community. So to kick us off today, I am very pleased to pass it over to Karina Camacho from the Western Riverside Council of Governments for some welcoming remarks.
All right, thanks, Jake.
Thanks.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Karina Camacho, Senior Analyst at the Western Riverside Council of Governments, and I support the I-REN public sector. I'm excited to welcome you today to the webinar, and thank you all for joining us. Today, we're going to highlight new and important public sector services for our region. The California Public Utilities Commission has approved I-REN's request to take a more expansive view of energy efficiency to include a broad suite of clean energy and resiliency services. These offerings are designed to help our region not only save energy, reduce costs, but also increase resiliency and sustainability in the face of changing climate and energy needs. Our mission is to empower local governments and public agencies in Riverside and San Mateo counties to build a stronger and more resilient community. We need to maximize these benefits and the funding that's available to our region by working together to identify and develop projects to make the most of these opportunities. Whether you represent a city, county, school district, special district, tribe, I-REN is here to support you all on every step of the way, from energy audits, technical assistance, project management, funding guidance. We're committed to providing customized support to meet whatever agency's needs are. So thank you again for being here. I look forward to a great discussion and seeing how we can collaborate and create impactful projects in our community. So with that, I'll pass it back to Jake for some housekeeping.
Thanks, Karina. We can go to the next slide. All right, so before we get started, I want to review just a few quick housekeeping items. First, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared with all participants after the session. Everyone's microphones are muted, but we do encourage you to engage through the chat feature and also submit questions through the Q&A throughout the presentation. If you do experience any technical difficulties, Vanita Tran from the Energy Coalition is able to assist, and her email is listed on the screen if you need to reach out directly. And lastly, if you happen to disconnect, our team will be monitoring the waiting room and can let you back in. So with that, we'll go to the next slide for a quick review of today's agenda. So for today's webinar, we'll start with an overview of I-REN's public sector programs, followed by a 101 on clean energy and resilience systems. Next, we'll introduce I-REN's new service offerings, and then we'll hear a case study focused on a local solar and electric vehicle charging project. Lastly, we'll wrap up with some time for question and answers. We can go to the next slide. We're thrilled to have a really great lineup of speakers with us today. First is Anthony Segura, Program Manager at the Energy Coalition, who will kick things off with a brief introduction to I-REN's public sector services. Ryan Sparks is a project engineer at TRC and also a technical engineering consultant for I-REN. He'll be providing a primer on the clean energy and resilience technologies that are featured in our new service offerings. And lastly, Guy Eisenbray, Director of Municipal Services for the town of Apple Valley, will share a case study highlighting exciting energy resilience projects underway in their community. So with that, I'll kick it over to our first presenter, Anthony Segura, for an I-REN program overview.
Thank you, Jake. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. Next slide, please. To get us started, the Inland Regional Energy Network, also known for short as I-REN, is a consortium of 3 councils of governments that got together in 2019 to create local energy programs for the inland region. These councils of governments are known as the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, the San Bernardino Council of Governments, and the Western Riverside Council of Governments. Next slide, please. I-REN has a mission, and with this mission, they want to build a strong, clean energy economy and community for the members within the inland region through its tailored energy efficiency programs. The programs that I-REN develops and administers within the region helps educate, enhance, and empower agencies and communities to further grow their energy goals, but also continue identifying and growing in this landscape of energy efficiency that's always changing and moving fast through its various environments. Next slide, please. Thank you. Um, in 2021, the California Public Utilities Commission approved of I-REN and its various programs. The three programs are listed here. For today, we're putting a focus on the public sector program. The public sector program aims at assisting local agencies at achieving both their state and local energy efficiency goals. There's also workforce education and training, which aims at assisting and providing regional resources, webinars, trainings, and growing the workforce within the inland region. And lastly, there's a codes and standards program, which helps at assisting public building professionals with working on the day-to-day environment of California Energy Code Title 24. Next slide, please. Thank you. As for who is eligible for I-REN's public sector services or how to get involved, to start, any public agency that falls within I-REN's service territory of both San Bernardino and Riverside County is eligible and automatically enrolled. So cities, tribes, school districts, you fall within those boundary lines, you're automatically able to take advantage and participate in I-REN services. I do want to note that I-REN services are at no cost because they are ratepayer funded. For those public agencies that fall within the boundary lines, your service provider, all that we ask is your service provider or your facilities have a Southern California Edison or Southern California Gas account. This is the investor-owned utility that I-REN works with, so we just want to make sure that we can support and provide all things energy efficiency for all the facilities and infrastructure opportunities. And again, as mentioned not too long ago, I-REN services do come at no cost. So we want to work with you all, whether you're already enrolled or if you hear from a neighbor or a partner from a neighboring agency, please reach out to us. We definitely want to continue supporting your clean energy and resiliency opportunities through I-REN services. With that, I'd love to hand it back to you, Jake, for the next part of the webinar.
Great. Thank you so much, Anthony. Next, we'll pass it over to Ryan Sparks from TRC, who will provide a quick intro on clean energy and resilient systems that we'll talk to a little bit more when we get to I-REN's new program services. With that, Ryan, take it away.
Thank you, Jake. So as Jake said, I'm going to give a quick rundown of the different kinds of clean energy and resiliency technologies. The main ones that you see are solar photovoltaics, so solar panels on roofs, energy storage, so battery systems, EV charging, and then microgrids act as a combination of these. There are other ones that aren't included here, but these are the main four kinds of systems you'll see in most buildings. Next slide, please. So the advantages of clean energy and resiliency systems as opposed to traditional electric grids is that small scale energy generation and storage systems are located close to where energy is used rather than at large centralized power plants. Effectively, a traditional electric grid has a large power plant that's located far away from the main population. It creates a ton of energy at once and then transmits it one way to the end user. It does this for safety reasons because you want big power plants far away from things for efficiency reasons. But you have a limit to the amount of control you have locally, and the large transmission distances are somewhat inefficient because the longer something has to travel, the more energy loss you have along the way. Alternatively, with clean energy and resiliency systems, as opposed to the far away singular power plant, you have a bunch of local power plants. So you have local generation from stuff like solar panels on residential roofs and the roofs of various agencies. You have two-way power flow. So you can either supply your building with the power generation or send it back to the grid if you have too much use. which adds to the resiliency of the grid as a whole. Because everything's generated on site, you have reduced transmission losses and you have enhanced resilience because everything is generated on site. Next slide, please. The first resiliency system is solar photovoltaic systems. This is probably the one that most people are familiar with. It's basically a solar panel. When it gets hit with light, it generates some amount of electricity that can then be used on site. This is really good in Southern California because we have a lot of sunny days, so it's a very good place to have solar panels locally. The key benefits of this are cost saving just directly on your utility bill. As you generate electricity, you don't have to pay for electricity from the grid, so it becomes very cost effective fairly quickly. Additionally, because you are not relying on other sources of the main grid for energy, you have reduced emissions because on-site solar photovoltaic systems don't require emissions. Think of it like as opposed to something like burning fossil fuel like your car, it's going to generate emissions on site. Additionally, like I said before, this kind of system leads to energy independence. You have more independence and resilience from the grid because you're generating your own electricity, and you have some amount of price stability because very oftentimes you can get contracts with various or with solar systems where your utility rate for electricity is locked in over the course of the photovoltaic lifespan, as opposed to relying on the grid, increasing energy costs over the years. So a couple of things that a site audit would focus on for a solar system is basically where the equipment where the solar system is going to be installed. So a roof or parking lot, the available area, how it's constructed, and then the things that are going to affect the energy generation of that system. So the shading of the system throughout the year, the electrical system compatibility, how much you're going to have to upgrade or not. And then at the bottom, you can see the return on investment of about 5 to 8 years, lifespan of about 25 to 30. Next slide, please. Next system I want to talk about is battery energy storage systems, also known as BESS. The main benefit of a battery storage system is it can act as backup power. So it's a very strong resiliency system because if power goes out from the main grid, you can be extra reliant on your own grid. This works very well in tandem with a solar system. Basically, you can generate electricity during the day when the sun is out, and then you can store it for later. That's the solar optimization there. That, in addition to helping create extra resiliency for backup power, it helps you reduce energy costs because you can even be even less reliant on the traditional energy grid because the systems work well to create and store energy locally. An additional benefit is peak shaving. So if you have a battery system that has a 50 kilowatt capacity, the top 50 kilowatts of your usage can be shaved when your air conditioner turns on or something like that, which can have a very profound effect on your electricity bill. And then grid services, there's potential revenue programs to help incentivize battery storage systems. The site audit focus of these systems are somewhat similar to solar. Basically, we're looking at how feasible it is to install, so where it can be installed, what critical loads would need to be served by the system, and then how it can integrate with solar, which is a very common pairing of the two. And as you can see, the size can vary a decent amount. The lifespan is about 10 to 15 years. And the main applications, like I said, are backup power, peak shaving, and you pair it with the solar system. Next slide, please. The next technology type is electric vehicle charging infrastructure. One of the main benefits of this is, or the main benefit of this is resiliency, and lack of emissions. With electrical vehicles, as I said earlier, you have reduced emissions on site, which is just healthier in general. Additionally, you have lower fuel and maintenance costs because electric vehicles, EVs tend to be cheaper because electricity is cheaper on site, and they have less maintenance in general. As an agency, fleet electrification is a very big is a big way to move the needle in terms of resiliency and clean energy. So this, when you electrify an entire fleet of vehicles, it reduces a lot of the emissions generation from the transportation sector, which is a very big cause of carbon dioxide emissions, especially in Southern California. So in addition to the lower fuel and maintenance costs that you would just see on your bill, an additional benefit is that when you electrify a fleet as a public agency, you typically have to upgrade your infrastructure, which then provides a service to the community, where basically in order to have chargers so that all your fleet vehicles can charge, the public then gets to help use those chargers, which then can generate some amount of revenue and help pay itself back. So the site audit focus of this kind of system is the electrical capacity, the size of the parking lot, how many cars are going to be charged, the types of chargers. It's basically the electrical grid and the cars that are going to be using it. Next slide, please. And the final resiliency system is a microgrid or combined system. This is a general way to say these systems, when they are combined, work a lot better together. Basically, when everything gets electrified, they can kind of all work in tandem. For example, maximum resiliency when you have a combined microgrid. When a solar system, solar panels and battery system are working together, like I was saying earlier, the solar generates electricity during the day, whether or not the primary grid is producing or sending electricity. And then at night, even past the solar system's operation, you can have further resiliency because the battery's been charged during the day. Additionally, you can have optimized operations because they're working together. So if you install a battery or solar panels in addition to your EV, because they are hedging against the energy, basically they're generating energy so that you don't have to pay as much for the charging during the peak periods of the day because you are self-generating the electricity, so it becomes cheaper. These kinds of systems are good for emergency operations because they add resiliency to a system, and you don't become as reliant on the grid. And they are scalable because they all are reliant on the same fuel source of electricity. So you can start small and expand over time as long as you kind of know what you are intending to build into. So the site audit focus is basically the same as the audit focuses I said before, depending on the systems you're picking, what loads you're looking at, what systems you want to upgrade, and then in addition to that, how interconnected all of them are. So like I said, these are best for emergency operations that you don't want to have shut down. You want to have a lot of resiliency. So emergency centers, police, fire stations, shelters that you kind of want to have backup power during blackouts. Next slide. There are several ways to finance these kinds of projects. The most obvious and self-explanatory one is direct purchase. It's basically the system gets directly purchased by you as the end user, and you upfront the costs at the start, and then immediately. Sorry, I think I muted myself there. You immediately start paying it back, but you have full ownership of it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Benefit is you have full control right away. Alternatively, a power purchase agreement is where a third party pays for the system, and you don't get zero ownership, but you don't have to front the money for it. And then you can lock in a more efficient electric rate than you would paying for the grid because it's more efficient. You can pay the power purchaser the amount of money to pay the system off, and then it's still more efficient than paying for traditional energy. The middle of this is a lease of finance, where you are kind of paying for it over time rather than paying someone else and then eventually leads to ownership, but you don't have immediate and total ownership right away. And then an energy performance contract is a type of funding mechanism where a separate party installs And it's kind of a combination of direct purchase and power purchase where you kind of work together to guarantee the energy efficiency. Next slide, please. So a quick real world example is if you were to install all of these systems at City Hall, like rooftop solar, battery storage, and EV charging ports, you could see about $180,000 per year in saving, 800 tons of CO2 reduction, 72 hours of battery backup because the solar and battery are working together, and you could see 15 fleet vehicles electrified, which then contributes to annual fuel savings. Next slide. So last thoughts, questions to consider. What are your top climate and sustainability goals? Basically, do you want to electrify or decarbonize or become energy efficient? They're all kind of different things that you have to consider beforehand. Which facilities do you want to increase resiliency to? What are the most critical loads that you want to target for there? What's your timeline for like fleet electrification? 2 years versus 10 years is very different in terms of projects you're going to see. And then are there any other facility renovations that you could kind of pair these upgrades along? Because they're infrastructure upgrades, so they're very easy. But it makes it a lot easier when you're going through other renovations at the same time. That is all for my rundown. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to pass it back to Jake.
So much, Ryan. Really appreciate the informative presentation here before we really jump into how I-REN will be able to support with some of these projects in the very near future. But before we do that, we do want to hear from all of you. So we'll be launching just a few quick poll questions to really help us gain a better understanding of all of your experiences working on clean energy projects to date. So if we can maybe launch that first poll question, we would like to know where your agency is at in its clean energy and resilience journey. If you have not started, no current plans to start, maybe just beginning to explore, planning to start in the next year, actively seeking support now, or already implementing projects. All right. So sharing out those results, looks like 35% are actively seeking support now, and as well as already implementing projects. So that's really great to hear. And then 17% are just beginning to explore, which is great timing as I-REN is starting to launch these new support services. And then we have 13% planning to start in the next year. Also really great timing. All right, great. We'll move to the next poll, which is a question asking, what is your biggest barrier to starting clean energy or resilience projects? You can select any that apply, including funding, staff time, technical assistance, gaining that leadership buy-in. Maybe you're not sure where to start. And then if there are other barriers, feel free to add those to the chat. All right. Can wrap this one up and we'll share those results. All right. Wow. So 71% of folks have listed funding as a barrier. Definitely can agree with that one. 29% staff time as well as technical expertise. So hopefully I-REN services will be supportive in overcoming some of those barriers specifically. And then leadership buy-in is another big one. So great feedback to for I-REN to kind of take in as we're starting to launch and also develop additional resources to help our agencies succeed with these projects as well. All right, so now with that, I think we can transition to what you all have joined us for, which is a walkthrough, and we can go to the next slide here. A walkthrough of I-REN's new and very exciting clean energy and resilience services, which will be available to all of our participating agencies in early 2026. So at I-REN's very first public sector working group, which we held last September, agencies shared with us some of their top energy and climate priorities, and it was very clear that those priorities extended well beyond the traditional energy efficiency project landscape. So agencies were telling us, that they're looking for support with solar, battery storage, electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and even microgrids. And unfortunately, under previous program regulations, I-REN was limited to only really supporting energy efficiency projects. But to better meet our agency's needs, I-REN requested permission from the California Public Utility Commission back in 2024 to hopefully expand its support into clean energy and resilience projects. And that request was just approved a few months ago. So with this approval, we can now help our public agencies pursue comprehensive strategies to really help strengthen resilience, reduce emissions, and generally lower long-term operational costs. So on the next slide, we can get into what that specific support looks like. So our expanded clean energy and resilience services are seamlessly integrated into I-REN's project support that you're already all familiar with. First, we'll conduct specialized facility audits to help identify opportunities for clean energy and resilience technologies. This will involve working very closely with you to prioritize the facilities and various sites where these improvements will really have the greatest impact. Next, our team will be able to provide clear technical and financial analysis to help you plan for these potential upgrades and also gain that very important stakeholder buy-in. And lastly, we'll be able to help identify funding and financing options to really help make these projects a reality. So from very early assessment through project implementation, I-REN will be with you to support. Okay, we can go to the next slide here. So through I-REN's new clean energy and resilience audits, we'll be able to identify opportunities for solar PV with battery storage, electric vehicle charging infrastructure. We can look at programs and different building controls to help reduce electricity use during peak hours. So this can include demand response programs, smart building controls and management systems. We can also support with building electrification, as well as microgrids or advanced energy systems. As we're exploring these new audits and audit services, we encourage agencies to explore a combination of facilities and technologies that are really tailored to your specific priorities. And then the other important note is that for facility audits that explore solar PV, those must also explore that ever important battery storage component, just to make sure that the system is operating during power disruptions with the maximum energy resilience. So really making sure that the solar and battery are paired together. All right, we can go to just a quick overview. So kind of understanding how these new audits fit into the existing audit services. Well, we now offer a full suite of audit options to really help you at any stage of your energy planning journey. So the first option that you see here is our traditional energy efficiency, also known as EE audit. This is the service we've been providing to our agencies since the I-REN program launched. And these focus on optimizing existing equipment and improving operational performance. The second option is our new standalone clean energy and resilience audit, evaluating those opportunities that I just spoke to. This is a really great option for a facility that may have already received an audit through I-REN in the last few years, or may already have an energy efficiency project underway. And then the third option is really just combining those first two into one comprehensive assessment of your facility, and we can do that through a bundled site visit. So one site visit to kind of take a look at all of these different technologies and opportunities. A few additional components to our audit deliverables. We'll be creating a project phasing plan that really helps to outline a clear step-by-step path for implementing each opportunity that has been identified through your audit. And we'll break those opportunities out into various phases with estimated implementation timelines. And then another note, so, while I-REN is unable to provide direct incentives for these clean energy projects, we will be able to provide a financial assessment to help identify any external funding and financing pathways that could support you with these specific projects. All right, you can go to the next slide. So participating agencies will have access to I-REN's existing project management support, but will, now be expanded into supporting these clean energy and resilience projects. We'll be able to provide guidance on technical specifications and assist with procurement, which could include helping to review bids that come in from a contractor, or just ensuring alignment with different program or funding requirements. We can offer construction management support, making sure that we're helping to maintain eligibility on any program requirements, and also just generally keep your project on track. And then lastly, we can assist with any incentive applications, just enabling our agencies to make sure they're able to capture available external funding and maximize that project value. All right, so this next slide will focus on some important eligibility requirements for these new clean energy and resilience support services. So to access our new clean energy and resilience services, agencies must first have received an I-REN energy roadmap, either a preliminary or final version. The majority of our participating agencies have received one or are on the path to receiving one very soon. And this roadmap just ensures that there's a clear understanding of facility needs and priorities before moving into any technical assistance. And then the next one is something that Anthony also covered a bit earlier in the presentation, but facilities must be served by Southern California Edison, SCE, for any electric opportunities, and then SoCalGas for support on any natural gas opportunities, which is also just a general requirement for any I-REN support. All right, so on the next slide, I'll briefly talk about some of the very first steps to really just getting started with these new services. So getting started with any of our clean energy and resilience or energy efficiency support will now begin with what we'll be calling a technical assistance interest form. So this is just a quick online fillable form that helps us on the I-REN team quickly understand your agency's needs and really streamline that onboarding process to be able to get you support as quickly as we can. So one special note for today, by joining the webinar, All of the participants here will receive early access to that technical assistance form, ensuring your agency can be among one of the first in line for these new expanded services once we officially launch in early 2026. And we'll be following up with a link to that form with some of the webinar follow-up materials, as well as some individual outreach from the I-REN team. So once you've submitted this quick technical assistance form, our team here at I-REN will work with you to gather any necessary facility data that we would need before going on site to do a site visit. And then from there, we'll align with your team on the specific scope of services and really gain a better understanding of what types of technology you're interested in exploring at a particular facility. And so once we've kind of aligned on that scope, step 4 is receiving support from our team. And our goal is to support you as best we can to get these projects in the ground and so that you're able to see those benefits. All right. And then lastly, just I know we talked a lot about new forms and data collection. We wanted to use this opportunity to hopefully break this down to make it seem a little less daunting. So as I mentioned, that very first step to receiving services is submitting that technical assistance interest form. Like I mentioned, it's a quick online fillable form. It essentially just helps us understand your agency's goals, what types of technologies you want to explore. It will also have an opportunity for you to provide some basic facility information for potential audit candidates, as well as share a snapshot of any current project planning or funding efforts that you may have underway. I will note the form allows you to submit up to 2 sites or facilities at a time, which just kind of helps our team make sure we're allocating resources equitably across all the participating agencies, especially as we're kind of launching this new program and trying to kind of manage the demand that we might see. Once the form is submitted, you'll see step 2, which is that pre-audit data collection. A lot of this is what you're probably used to if you've already done an energy audit with I-REN, but this process will include providing us with any specific facility details through a quick Excel spreadsheet. We'll request any site drawings for that particular site, and then any relevant project or equipment info that would be helpful before our engineers do the site visit. All right. The last quick one here is just kind of tying this back to our Cash for Kilowatts program. So as I mentioned, I-REN can't offer incentives for clean energy technologies, but agencies can still pair those upgrades with our Cash for Kilowatts projects to make sure they're maximizing their overall savings and benefits. So clean energy upgrades and Cash for Kilowatts can work hand in hand as long as there's some upfront coordination. And so we'll ensure that we're able to clearly separate any clean energy or solar production from your normal energy use so that it doesn't affect any of your Cash for Kilowatts performance results or those incentives that the Cash for Kilowatts program is able to provide. All right, so with that, I know that was a lot of information and we'll have enough time at the end for some Q&A, but I would now like to pass it to Guy Eisenbray from the town of Apple Valley. He'll be discussing some exciting projects in the town's path to already kind of implementing some of these really awesome clean energy projects. With that, I'll pass it to you, Guy.
Thanks, Jake. Hello, good morning, everybody. Thank you to the I-REN team. Really excited to be here today, talk about some of the green and resiliency initiatives and projects that the town of Apple Valley has going that are currently underway. We've been a participating agency with I-REN since their inception, and they've actually gotten us through some energy efficiency audits and identified 3 of our locations as qualifying for their incentives. And so I'm very appreciative of that and very appreciative of this opportunity to speak today. Next slide, please. We'll start with a brief overview of these projects. The first being a solar photovoltaic system that is at several of our facilities, 4 of them to be precise. Roughly 7 parking lot canopy structures providing over 835,000 kilowatts of energy to those facilities. And we are designing those, or they're structured as a power purchase agreement with Forefront Power. It was a design build, 0% escalator on the PPA, as well as projected $1.3 million in savings over the 20-year duration of that contract. The project is underway. Currently, the engineered plans are at 90% complete, and the Forefront Power representatives have promised that it will be built within 730 days of when we signed that initial contract with them for the PPA. Additionally, added bonus within the terms of that agreement and a master contract with SPUR, which is School Project for Utility Rate Reduction, JPA of school and government entities. They prioritize a local workforce, which is extremely important these days. Next slide. The other project that is currently underway at the town of Apple Valley is our EV infrastructure. And that is merely our attempt to comply with those regulations under the ACF, or Advanced Clean Fleets regulations, as well as resiliency and being green. The type of service that we are getting from Forefront in this project as well is design and grant and procurement assistance. We have 2 locations that are under plan right now. One is the public-facing EV infrastructure at the conference center here at the town, as well as behind the gate at our Public Works corporate yard, which will provide us with fleet charging and facility power backup. The construction timeline for this project is yet to be determined. It's largely dependent on SCE and their infrastructure, as well as available funding, which Forefront Power is also providing us with support on. And to date, we have been awarded 2 grants, one from Communities in Charge, another from Energize, and we're also utilizing them to help us and support us in obtaining additional funding from the Mojave Desert Air and Quality Management District. Next slide, please. The EV infrastructure that we're planning on installing at the Public Works yard, 4 single port, 60 kilowatt, 3 DC fast chargers. They are also V2G capable, or vehicle to grid capable, which is where we will basically be making a microgrid and being resilient in making sure that our EOC, which is located at that Public Works yard, has backup power. The vehicles that will be connected at those chargers will act as the battery energy storage system and provide our EOC with temporary power. Then at the conference center, we will have an additional 4 ports. There will be 2 single and 1 dual port pedestal installed. They will be level 2 chargers. And the advantage of having Forefront Power do these projects is they are software and hardware agnostic. So they tell us what we need, and we can go out and procure what aligns with our needs. And so those at the conference center, we will be exploring software with Forefront that will also allow us to receive a revenue source from those charging stations. Next slide, please. And as I had mentioned, Spur is the JPA that we entered into a master contract with. It allows us to piggyback on their procurement efforts. And Forefront Power has been awarded those contracts for both solar and now solar plus battery and EV charging efforts. The support that they provide or have provided the town of Apple Valley and provide other participating agencies are pro forma estimations for each location. They provided us with a staff report and PowerPoint presentations for council. They continue to provide us with ongoing engineering support and plan development. And in the next phases of these projects, they will provide us with assistance in construction management and ongoing support. For example, the solar, they will continue to provide us with ongoing operations and maintenance support as part of the PPA agreement. Next slide, please. Some of the advantages and benefits of this partnership and relationship that we've entered into, and I'll kind of cue in on those three areas that were identified in the survey: funding, staff time, and technical expertise. In-house at the town, those are in short supply as they are in most government agencies. And the advantages and benefits of what we are underway with Forefront and Spur is just that. We're experiencing resource savings, project coordination. It's a complete concierge service. We're leveraging the competitive pricing and terms negotiated by Spur. And it's actually an excellent program, as well as some of the challenges we've experienced are only those challenges resulting from interactions either with the IOU, Southern California Edison, whether it's a lack of infrastructure or a recent advice letter that they had submitted to the CPUC, which would have detrimentally impacted our solar project and reduced our 20-year grandfathering to 9 years, essentially making it not pencil out. Forefront facilitated appeals on that matter, had their legal team look at it, coordinated with our legal team. We actually got a meeting with CPUC representatives and were successful in our argument to maintain those grandfathering terms for our NEM 2.0 solar system. Next slide, please. And also on the EV charging side of things, it is very similar in advantages and benefits as well as challenges. I'll speed right toward the challenges because that's where we're kind of stuck at right now, but Forefront again is assisting us in getting that infrastructure to our public works yard and assisting us with funding through grants and other means. Next slide, please. And for those of you that want additional information on the Spur programs, they're here on this slide. The solar program and the EV charging program are linked here, which I'm sure I-REN and the representatives here will be sharing out to those participating in this webinar. And I believe I will be sending it right back to Jake.
Yeah, Thanks so much, Guy. Really appreciate your time to share that project with us and look forward to hearing updates as it progresses. With that, we do want to launch one last poll before we hop into a very quick Q&A session. And so this poll is really trying to understand what support would be most helpful after today's webinar. So more information about program support services, case studies of similar public agencies, connecting with your I-REN project manager, getting help started with an audit, or tools/resources to share with any leadership. So let us know, and we'll definitely be taking this information back as we continue to develop resources and tools as we kind of launch into these new service offerings. And with that too, I'll just encourage folks to continue submitting questions through the chat or the Q&A feature. And then we'll jump right into a few questions. And Ryan, I think I'll have you answer one of our first questions next, just related to the electrification versus decarbonization, but just to get you on deck there. All right, so looking at the poll, looks like an overwhelming majority would like some more information about program support services. We do have some flyers and different marketing materials in development that will be distributed very shortly. It looks like tools and resources to share with leadership is also a really important one for folks. So thank you all for that feedback, and this will be very helpful as we can continue to develop these resources. Thank you. All right, so moving to our Q&A. We've had some questions that have been answered through the chat feature or through the Q&A feature. So feel free to take a look at those if you did ask a question. I think we'll answer one of these live, which is for you, Ryan, at TRC, just wondering how there'd be a distinction between kind of electrification, decarbonization, and if you have a good answer for that.
Yeah. So, I guess decarbonization is kind of it's more umbrella. You can electrifying is kind of inherently fairly decarbonizing. There are other things you can do to decarbonize. For example, even within electrifying, there are still for example, if you're buying energy from the grid, you could be buying regular energy or you can be buying clean energy, which is produced using clean decarbonized sources. So there's a distinction even within electrification where like if an electron is generated at a natural gas power plant versus solar power plant, there's different carbon that corresponds to each of those. So that distinction kind of differentiates between the two. There's also other things you can do to decarbonize, such as like recycling, using your car less, like as general terms. But within electrifying, it's basically where you generate the energy and how it gets generated, even within electrifying.
Thanks so much, Ryan. It looks like we have another question from Amber. Will I-REN assist with incentive paperwork for projects they were not involved in? And so the simple answer, I believe, there is going to be a yes. We can support with the Clean Energy Resilience Project incentive applications, even if we were not, involved from the maybe inception of that project. This would be a great opportunity to get that project support request in through the technical assistance form once you receive a link to that. And then you can kind of detail out what that project looks like, what that facility is within your portfolio, and really, get in the queue for some of that support that we can provide to your agency. So great question there. The other quick one, just to reiterate, was, do audits also include energy efficiency opportunities? And I just wanted to 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 point out that kind of going back to the suite of audit options that we now have, you can kind of pick your own adventure, if you will. So if you're only interested in exploring energy efficiency audit and doing those audits, that's definitely an option. If you're only interested in doing the clean energy piece, that's also kind of a standalone option. And then you can bundle both together in a single site assessment. Um, so you have some flexibility there. All right. Well, we'll continue monitoring the Q&A, and we can always provide any responses with any of our webinar follow-up. I think we'll go ahead and jump to the survey slide here as we wrap up today. So, and there were some additional slides just to kind of chat through some of the additional I-REN services that you all know and love. But for the sake of time, I think we'll skip over that today. But for this current slide, so once the webinar window closes on your computer, a brief survey will pop up, and we would greatly appreciate just a few minutes of your time to share your feedback on today's program. That really helps us to craft better programming and make any adjustments moving forward. All right, and then lastly on our thank you slide here, just to wrap up today, really want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us, both as our attendees and our speakers. We look forward to working with all of our agencies and partners on these very exciting new opportunities. As a reminder, we will have a recording of today's webinar that will be shared with all registrants, along with a link to access the new technical assistance interest form. So you can be among one of the first to receive the services that launch early next year. If you do have any additional questions after today, don't hesitate to reach out to your I-REN project manager or myself or Karina, whose emails are listed on the screen. And lastly, from all of us at I-REN, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day and have a really fantastic holiday season ahead. And thank you, everyone.